This video covers the best time to visit, how to get there, where to stay, top 10 attractions, and pro tips. Most people come to Boca Raton expecting beautiful beaches, luxury shopping, and palm-lined streets. And yes, you'll find all of that here. But to me, some of the best experiences in Boca Raton happen away from the obvious tourist spots. From peaceful nature preserves to hidden waterfront escapes, this city has a side that many visitors never take the time to discover. And if you only stick to the beach, it's surprisingly easy to miss what makes Boca Raton feel different from many other South Florida destinations. So in today's video, we're counting down the top 10 things to do in Boca Raton. From scenic parks and cultural attractions to local favorites that can completely change the way you experience the city. And one of the top spots on this list isn't a beach at all, but it might end up being the place you remember most. If you're looking for the best weather, November through April is usually the sweet spot. You'll enjoy warm temperatures, lower humidity, and ideal conditions for spending time outdoors. Boca is easy to navigate, but you'll definitely want a car to reach the best hidden spots, especially if you plan to explore nearby beaches, parks, and attractions. Downtown Boca is walkable, but many of the city's best spots are spread throughout the area. As for where to stay, downtown Boca Raton is a great choice if you want restaurants, shopping, and nightlife nearby. If beach access is your priority, staying closer to the coast gives you easy access to the ocean while still keeping you close to the city's attractions. Let's start with a place many visitors completely overlook. If you're looking for a quieter beach experience away from some of the larger crowds, Spanish River Park is one of Boca Raton's hidden gems. Located between the Intracoastal Waterway and the Atlantic Ocean, this beautiful park gives you access to both natural scenery and one of the area's most peaceful stretches of beach. What I really like about this place is the balance it offers. You can spend time walking shaded nature trails, enjoy a picnic beneath the trees, or simply head across the boardwalk and relax by the ocean. I've found that many visitors drive right past this park on their way to more famous beaches without realizing what they're missing. The beach itself often feels less crowded than some nearby alternatives, making it especially appealing for travelers looking for a more relaxed atmosphere. This spot is great for couples, nature lovers, beachgoers, and anyone who enjoys combining outdoor recreation with a little peace and quiet. My advice would be to visit early in the morning when the park feels especially calm and the temperatures are more comfortable. Now, for something completely different from beaches and nature, the Boca Raton Museum of Art offers one of the city's best cultural experiences. Located in the heart of downtown, this museum features a mix of contemporary art, photography, sculpture, and rotating exhibitions that keep things interesting throughout the year. What surprised me most is how approachable the museum feels. Even if you're not someone who regularly visits our museums, it's easy to enjoy the exhibits and spend a relaxing hour or two exploring the galleries. To me, attractions like this add variety to a trip. Not every great travel experience has to involve a beach or an outdoor adventure. The museum is especially good if you're visiting during a rainy day, a particularly hot afternoon, or simply looking for something different to break up your itinerary. I've found that many travelers appreciate having at least one cultural stop during their trip, and this is probably the best place in Boca Raton to do that. The only thing I'd recommend is checking current exhibitions before your visit, since temporary exhibits often become the highlight of the experience. If you want to experience the natural side of Boca Raton, Gumbo Limbo Nature Center is one of the best places to do it. Part nature center, part wildlife facility, and part educational attraction. This unique spot gives visitors a chance to learn about South Florida's coastal ecosystems while getting surprisingly close to local wildlife. One thing I really like about Gumbo Limbo is that it doesn't feel overly commercial. Instead, it feels like a place genuinely focused on conservation and education. You'll find sea turtle rehabilitation exhibits, nature trails, aquariums, and elevated boardwalks that wind through a beautiful coastal hammock ecosystem. What surprised me most was how much there is to see in a relatively compact area. It's easy to spend a couple of hours here without ever feeling rushed. This attraction works especially well for families, wildlife lovers, photographers, and anyone interested in Florida's unique environment. My advice would be to take your time on the boardwalk trails. Many visitors rush through them, but that's often where you'll spot some of the most interesting wildlife. And if you think Boca Raton is only about beaches and luxury living, the next few spots on this list are about to show you a very different side of the city. If there's one place that feels like the heart of Boca Raton, it's Mizner Park. Now, on paper, it might sound like just another shopping and dining district. But once you're actually here, you'll quickly realize it's much more than that. This is where people come to walk around, grab a coffee, enjoy dinner outdoors, catch a show, or simply spend a few hours soaking up the atmosphere. What I really like about Mizner Park is that it never feels rushed. The palm-lined walkways, colorful landscaping, public art, and open-air layout make it one of those places that's enjoyable even if you don't spend a dollar. I've found that some of the best moments here happen when you don't have a plan. You might stop for a drink, discover a local boutique, or find yourself sitting outside listening to live music. This area works well for couples, solo travelers, families, and honestly, just about anyone visiting Boca for the first time. My advice would be to visit twice if you can, once during the day and once in the evening. The atmosphere changes completely after sunset, and that's when the area really comes alive. If you're looking for a beach that's a little more interesting than simply laying out a towel and finding a spot in the sand, Reef Park is worth your time. Located right along the Atlantic Ocean, this park combines beautiful beachfront scenery with snorkeling opportunities, walking paths, and one of Boca's most unique coastal environments. What surprised me most is how much variety you get in one location. You can spend part of your day relaxing on the beach, then head into the water to explore nearshore reefs that attract tropical fish and marine life. To me, this feels like one of the most complete beach experiences in Boca Raton. It's especially good for travelers who want more than just sunbathing. If you enjoy snorkeling, photography, wildlife, or simply exploring, you'll probably appreciate this place more than some of the area's larger beaches. One thing I've noticed is that many visitors don't bring snorkeling gear because they don't realize there's actually marine life worth seeing close to shore. My advice would be to bring a mask and snorkel if you have them. You might be surprised by what you see. Now, if you're traveling with kids, Sugar Sand Park is one of those places you'll be very happy you discovered. In fact, I've found that many families end up spending much longer here than they originally planned. This large community park features playgrounds, nature areas, walking trails, sports facilities, and family-friendly attractions that make it one of the most popular recreational spaces in Boca Raton. The highlight for many visitors is the massive science-themed playground, which feels more like an attraction than a typical neighborhood park. What I really like about Sugar Sand Park is that it gives families a chance to take a break from beaches and restaurants while still having plenty to do. It's fun, affordable, and doesn't feel overly touristy. Even if you're not traveling with children, the park's walking trails and green spaces make it a pleasant place to spend some time outdoors. My advice would be to arrive earlier in the day if you're visiting during weekends, as it can become quite popular with local families. And speaking of places that many visitors overlook, we're now getting into the part of the list where Boca Raton starts revealing some of its most interesting stories. For something completely different, let's take a step back in time. The Boca Raton Historical Society and Museum offers a fascinating look at how this city evolved from a small coastal community into one of South Florida's most recognizable destinations. Housed inside the beautifully restored historic town hall building, the museum tells the story of Boca's early days through photographs, exhibits, artifacts, and local stories. Now, I know history museums aren't for everyone, but what surprised me most here is how much context it gives you for the places you've already seen around town. Suddenly, the architecture, neighborhoods, and even some of the street names start to make more sense. I've found that learning a little bit about a destination's history often makes the rest of the trip more meaningful. This attraction is especially good for history lovers, curious travelers, and anyone who enjoys understanding the story behind a place rather than just seeing the attractions. The only thing I'd mention is that this isn't a huge museum, so don't expect to spend an entire afternoon here. But if you're looking for a quick, interesting stop that adds depth to your visit, it's definitely worth considering. And honestly, this is where the list gets really interesting. The next 3 spots are the places that made me see Boca Raton differently. And one of them is the attraction I hinted at in the intro. If you've only thought of Boca as a beach and shopping destination, the rest of this list might completely change your mind. If you're looking for something you probably don't expect to find in South Florida, this is it. The Morikami Museum and Japanese Gardens feels like you've stepped into a completely different world. Located just outside Boca Raton, this beautiful cultural attraction combines Japanese history, art, architecture, and stunning gardens into one incredibly peaceful experience. What surprised me most the first time I learned about Morikami is that it's not just a museum. The gardens are really the star of the show. As you walk through the different garden areas, you'll find koi ponds, waterfalls, bamboo groves, stone pathways, and quiet spaces that feel far removed from the busy roads and shopping districts nearby. To me, this is one of the most relaxing attractions in all of South Florida. I've found that even people who don't normally visit museums end up loving Morikami because the experience is much more about the atmosphere than the exhibits. This is a great choice for couples, photographers, nature lovers, and anyone looking for a slower, more peaceful experience. My advice would be to give yourself extra time here. Most visitors think they'll stay an hour or 2 and often end up spending much longer. Now, if you want one place that combines ocean views, boats, beaches, and some of the best people watching in the city, head to South Inlet Park. Located beside the Boca Raton Inlet, this spot offers a front row seat to one of the busiest waterways in the area. What I really like about this place is that there's always something happening. One minute you're watching fishing boats return from offshore waters. The next you're seeing luxury yachts, paddleboarders, surfers, and families enjoying the beach. The inlet itself creates constantly changing scenery, which means it never feels repetitive. I've found that this is one of the best places in Boca to simply sit and enjoy the view without feeling like you need a structured activity. It's also one of the better spots in the city for photography, especially around sunrise and sunset. This attraction works for beach lovers, photographers, families, and anyone who enjoys being near the water. My advice would be to bring a chair or towel and spend a little extra time here. The longer you stay, the more you'll appreciate the atmosphere. And while the inlet offers some of the best coastal scenery in Boca Raton, the number 1 spot on this list reveals a side of the city that many visitors never discover. Taking the top spot is a place that completely changes the way many people think about Boca Raton. Most visitors arrive expecting beaches, shopping, and upscale neighborhoods. But Daggerwing Nature Center shows you a very different side of South Florida. Located within Burt Aronson South County Regional Park, this nature center sits alongside wetlands, boardwalks, and wildlife habitats that feel a world away from the city's more developed areas. What I really like about this place is how accessible it is. You don't need to be an experienced hiker or wildlife expert to enjoy it. Simply walking the boardwalk can lead to sightings of turtles, birds, fish, and sometimes even alligators. What surprised me most is how peaceful the area feels despite being so close to busy roads and neighborhoods. To me, this attraction perfectly represents why it's worth exploring beyond the obvious tourist spots. You'll find plenty of beautiful beaches in Florida, but experiences like this are what make a destination feel unique. This is a great stop for families, photographers, nature lovers, and anyone interested in seeing Florida's natural environment up close. My advice would be to visit during the morning hours when wildlife activity is often at its best and temperatures are more comfortable. And quick heads up, I've added some of my favorite travel essentials in the description that can make your trip a lot easier. Definitely worth a quick look. If you ask me, this is the attraction that most clearly proves Boca Raton is much more than a beach destination. If you're planning to spend time at popular beaches like Red Reef Park or South Inlet Park, arriving early can save you a lot of hassle. Parking fills up surprisingly fast, especially during weekends and holidays. One thing I've noticed is that many visitors try to squeeze Boca Raton into a single day. Personally, I think it's worth staying at least a couple of nights. That gives you enough time to enjoy both the beaches and some of the less obvious attractions. If you're visiting during summer, try to schedule outdoor activities earlier in the day. South Florida heat and humidity can become intense by mid-afternoon. For places like Morikami Museum and Daggerwing Nature Center, take your time. These aren't attractions you rush through. The slower pace is actually part of what makes them enjoyable. And if you're staying downtown, you'll find plenty of restaurants and nightlife within walking distance, which can save you time and reduce the need for extra driving in the evenings. At the end of the day, Boca Raton is much more than luxury shopping and beautiful beaches. To me, what makes this city special is the variety. You can spend the morning exploring nature trails, the afternoon relaxing by the ocean, and the evening enjoying restaurants, culture, and waterfront views. I've found that the people who enjoy Boca the most are usually the ones who go beyond the obvious attractions and take the time to discover its quieter, less touristy side. Choose the right experiences, and you'll quickly see why Boca Raton has become one of South Florida's most popular places to visit. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more travel videos just like this. And let me know in the comments, which Boca Raton attraction would be first on your list? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.